Hey guys, it's Jimmy today, and in today's video, I want to talk about how I lied to myself about becoming rich until it became true. And if you don't know who I am, I know what you're probably thinking. If you're just seeing me for the first time, you're probably telling yourself, who's this kid, this young looking guy who's just trying to teach me how to get rich, how to be successful in life. He's young, right? He probably doesn't know that much, all of this other stuff. And I completely hear you, right? I probably think the exact same thing. But just to give you a little bit more background context on who I am, my name is Jim Fung. I'm in Canada. If you're seeing me wear this coat, it's actually because outside it's actually snowing and it's extremely cold. And today I run two businesses. I run a lead generation agency and I have a consulting business. And last night, what really prompted me to film this video was I was actually putting together kind of my financial statements because I was bringing it to the accountant later on today. And I realized that over the last two and a half years of running my business, I actually made and crossed over $1 million in sales across both my businesses, right? And now obviously not all of it is entirely profit, but both businesses are both relatively lean and somewhere between 70 to 85% profit margins, right? So I did take home a considerable amount of that, $1 million that I have made. But it wasn't always this way. And honestly, right, I'm not making this video to show off or to flex or to do anything else because literally just 3 to 4 years ago, my life was completely different, right? 3 to 4 years ago, it was the middle of the pandemic. I was in university studying business. And honestly, I just didn't really know what I was doing, right? I was working a part-time job. I was at McDonald's, I was flipping burgers, absolutely hated that job. And honestly, I just didn't really know what I was doing. I'd wake up every single day in like the afternoon, play video games with my friends, play Fortnite, Valorant, stuff like that. And my life honestly just had no direction. And it just honestly sucked, right? And growing up, right, I didn't come from a family with a lot of money. My parents were middle class, we weren't rich, we weren't poor, but I always had that greater desire to just figure out how to make more money, right? I remember as a kid, every single time I'd go to like the mall or something like that, and I'd see a guy driving like a Mercedes or a BMW or just a fancy car. I always told myself, I'm gonna be like that guy in 10 years, right? I don't know how I'll do it. I don't know what the process involves, but I know I'll be that guy. And I always wanted to be rich. And I'm not gonna lie, at least in the beginning, my entire reason for becoming rich and making all of this money was just to buy like just regular materialistic stuff, right? Buy a nice watch, buy a nice car, be able to travel the world, things like that. And as I started making more money, my goals have definitely changed. But what I wanted to talk about today was actually how I was able to go about doing that. Because when I first started, I honestly didn't have a lot of money. I think while I was in university, probably the most I've ever had in my bank account was probably like $10,000, right? And that was just from like working odd jobs here and there, working at McDonald's, working minimum wage, stuff like that. And at one point, I actually ended up in a ton of debt, right? If you watch some of my other YouTube videos, probably talk about it here and there, but didn't go into too much detail because I just made some poor decisions and I ended up worse than probably most people, right? Who do have even like $5 in their bank account. I was actually worse than that. And I just knew that something needed to change, right? I knew I needed to be rich and I honestly just didn't even know where to start. And I think what I want to talk about in today's video is the entire premise is definitely going to be more about becoming the type of person who is deserving of becoming rich, becoming the type of person who does make the level of income and make the amount of money that they'd like. Right? Because I know when I first started, right, I was actually thinking about this as I was kind of like, I don't have a script for this video, but as I was kind of just in my own head, just thinking about the topics and what I want to talk about, I actually remember when I first started in, looking at the entrepreneurship space, the very first thing I did was I had this notebook, like I actually just went to like Walmart and I bought this notebook. And every single day, I would literally write my goals. And I know this sounds like bullshit because I probably, I thought the exact same thing when I was first getting started. This guy's talking about making goals and stuff like that. But it honestly is one of the most important things because there's this analogy that I heard and it was very relevant that really motivated me to start writing down my goals, thinking about what my goals are. It's kind of like a plane. When a plane takes off, if it doesn't have a specific coordinates and it's just kind of flying through the sky, through the air, it's not going to make it to a destination, right? Or more, and what's worse than that is, let's say it does have an overall direction, which for most people is probably, I want to make more money. And they don't have specific outcomes involved or in this case, the plane, it doesn't have specific coordinates, just taking off a few meters in the wrong direction over a long period of time, it goes like this, right? Like the effects really compound. And before you know it, after like a 3-hour flight, 5-hour flight, the plane's in a completely different location than what it originally planned. And the exact same thing applies to your life and how you want to think about goal setting and making the amount of money that you want to make. Is you need to get very specific with the goals that you're trying to hit. And more specifically, you need to understand why you're trying to make those goals. So I remember when I was 21 years old, so I'm 24 right now. When I was 21 years old, every single day when I woke up, I put in my notebook my 5 goals, right? When I went to sleep, I wrote again those 5 goals. And the power of that was I was really able to visualize it. And I remember my goals, right? This was back when I was literally working at McDonald's for minimum wage, probably had like 10 grand in my bank account max. And I remember my goals was literally to make $250,000 in a year within the next 5 years and have at least $100,000 cash in savings inside of my bank account. And, obviously to today, I've been able to achieve both of those things. And a lot of that, it really just happened the way that I planned it, right? I remember some of my other goals was buy a Mercedes, AMG, right? Which is what I've also been able to do. Buy Rolex, which is, what I'm wearing right now. And again, right, I'm not saying these or showing you these things just to flex, right? But it's true, right? It's literally proof that setting your goals really do work. Now, obviously, when I first started, I was pretty young, right? I was 21 years old. And like most people who are young, most of my goals were strictly revolving around money. Oh, I want to make money so that I could buy a car. I want to make money so I could buy a watch or buy some fancy clothing or whatever the case is. And as I started moving towards my goals and started making the money and becoming the person who could make that level of money, started realizing that the biggest reason why most people fail in business, in entrepreneurship, in achieving their goals is because they just don't really have a good reason why. And for example, I have a consulting program where I teach people how to start businesses, right? How to start a lead generation agency. And on those calls, in order to get people to, to enroll, to get started with them, one of the questions I ask is, okay, so what's your ultimate goal with starting a business, starting a lead generation agency? And I'd say 8 in 10 people always just say, oh, my goal is to make more money. And who doesn't want to make more money? I have never met a single person who says, I want to make less money than what I'm currently making. And that's honestly one of the worst answers you could give if you're asking yourself, what is my goal? What is my goal for the next year, for the next 3 years, for the next 5 years? And your goal is, I just want to make more money. That's probably the shittiest goal you can have, right? And that's the truth. Because like I said, who doesn't? I've never met a single person who wants to make less money. But how much money do you want to make? Is that 5 grand a month? 10 grand a month, 25 grand per month? What does that specifically look like? And more importantly, why? Why do you want to make 10 grand per month? Why do you want to make 15 grand per month? Because making money for the sake of making money is honestly not all that, right? And I'm speaking from my own experience where, when I first started, I was just making money because having, the thought of having 100 grand cash in my bank account sounded pretty cool, right? The thought of making $250,000, that sounded cool too. And essentially, I was just making money for the sake of making money. And after I made probably my first 100 grand in total, which took place literally in like the first year I started in business, I realized that it just wasn't all that. And I went through a period where I just really lost my motivation. And for a lot of people, everyone has a different reason why. Like I said, for my reason, it was just to buy a car, right? Making 100 grand is simply not enough to be able to, buy that dream car, buy a nice watch and travel the world and be financially responsible. Like, sure, you could do that. It's just, you're not going to have any money left over after that. But that was my why. And for the longest time, that really fueled me. I talk to a lot of people every single day. And for a lot of people, their why is so that they could take care of their parents, right? Their parents aren't getting any older. They're not getting any younger. So people really do have to take action ASAP, right? For some other people, their goals is maybe they have a small child at home, right? They have like a 3-year-old or 4-year-old son or daughter, and they want to build an environment where the present parents and their current situation at the job they work at or whatever it is that they're doing inside their life, it really doesn't allow them to spend the amount of time that they'd be looking for in order to just be present in their kids' childhood, right? Their kids are growing up. They're not going to be little kids forever. And you really have to understand, why is it that you want to make the money that you want to do? Why do you want to start a business? Is it because you want more freedom? What does that mean? There's financial freedom, there's time freedom, there's location freedom. Okay, let's say you want a time and location freedom. You want to be able to work anywhere you want and work the hours that you want to. But why though? Why is that important to you? Why is it important to you to be able to travel the world, right? And a lot of people, right, they just get very surface level. And if this line of questioning, you really have to ask yourself, and if it makes you uncomfortable, good. It honestly should. Because if you're not feeling uncomfortable about some of these questions, then it honestly means you're just not asking yourself the right questions, right? Or you're not going a level deep enough that really motivates you to actually take massive action towards these big goals that you're setting out for yourself. And that also brings me to my next point, which is setting these big goals, right? The way I look at goal setting, right? There's tons of YouTube videos on goal setting, right? Probably ones that are way better than the one that you're watching right now. But the best thing I could say is when it comes to goal setting, right? I know a lot of successful people who have made 7, sometimes even 8 figures in a single year inside their business. And every single time I ask them about what their goals, they always tell me the best way to set goals is to set a goal that is realistic. So don't tell yourself you're going to become a billionaire in the next 10 years because it's very unlikely to happen, very, very low probability. I can't just set my goal to become a trillionaire and expect that to happen because it's just too grand to be realistic. But more importantly, you have to set goals where there's a balance where you want to achieve, where it's realistic, but big enough where it kind of just scares you a little bit. So when I first started, right, I was probably making maybe like $500 a month, right? Maybe like $1,000 max a month from my job at McDonald's. And my initial goal was to get to 10 grand per month. That's more than, 10 to 20x jump of what I was currently making at McDonald's. And for me, that felt realistic because I looked around and I saw a lot of people online who were like, oh yeah, I make 10 grand per month. So I knew it was realistic, but it was very scary for me because again, I was making $500 per month, right? I had no skills, I had no experience. I honestly didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know the first thing about business or entrepreneurship. So that was a goal that was realistic enough, but just big enough where it really motivated me, right? Because if I set my goal to, I just want to make 3 grand a month, right? Honestly, 3 grand per month, it doesn't really excite me, right? Because here in Canada, where I live, 3 grand per month, doesn't really buy you a whole lot, right? Rent is already 3 grand per month, right? It doesn't really set yourself up for a really great life, to be honest, right? And for me, that just wasn't a massive goal for me. My goal was to get to 10 grand per month because at that time when I was 21 years old, I thought when I get to 10 grand per month, I'll be living like a king, right? Like I'll be able to buy all of these random things, experience life the way I truly want to live, right? And I think that's the aspect of goal setting where you need to be realistic, but at the same time, you need to set these goals that are big enough that actually excite you. And number 2, that even scares you just a tiny little bit because that's honestly the key. And that leads me to the other thing, which is back to the point of the why, right? Again, why do you want to make the money? Why do you want to build a business, right? Why do you want to travel the world? And these reasons will be the reasons that fuel you through all of the dark times, right? All of the times where it just sucks. Because the other thing that people don't really say, or when I was getting started, I'd never seen a single person talk about it, is success is hard, right? Everyone likes to paint the picture online that getting to 10 grand per month is easy. Getting to 50 grand per month is easy. Getting to 100 grand per month, it's a piece of cake. And in retrospect, as someone who has achieved all of those points, it's not hard, so to speak. It's hard in the sense where my thoughts, I thought about giving up probably hundreds of times. And the reasons that I didn't give up was, again, back to my why, right? Because when things hit the fan, when shit hit the fan, right? And things got really tough, I always just thought about my parents that I've always wanted to take care of, my future family that I want to take care of. And those are reasons that really do fuel me. And that's the most important part is you can't achieve anything if you don't have a destination in mind, right? You can't go anywhere without a destination, right? You can't take off from the airport if you don't know where you're gonna land. And that's the exact same thing about goal setting, right? So the very first thing you need to do if your goal is to get rich, right? I really do honestly dislike that term because there's a lot of connotation behind it. But if your goal is to, let's say, make 10 grand per month, 15 grand per month, 5 grand a month, doesn't really matter. Why is that, right? In what timeline? I wanna make 10 grand per month within the next 6 months. I wanna make 10 grand per month within the next year. Right? I want to have 50 grand in cash in my bank account in savings within the next 2 years, right? I want to be able to consistently send, a few $1,000s to my parents every single month by 2025, for example, right? That's the level of detail that you want to have if you want to really just motivate yourself to really achieve those goals. So that's the very first thing that I really had to do. And I had to lie to myself that all of these things were possible. There were days I woke up, I didn't have the greatest sleep or, other people were pissing me off or whatever the case is. And I looked at my goals and I was like, this is stupid, right? Just writing my goals on a piece of paper. This is the dumbest thing I could do. What a waste of 5 minutes. But I just stuck with it. And I am living proof that goal setting 100% does work. And that leads me to my second point, which is becoming the type of person who can make the level of income, right? So I'm just gonna make that assumption that probably if you're watching this video, this is a business channel, that your goals are probably surrounding making an online, building an online business and making a certain level of income, right? I'm gonna assume that is your goal. Otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video. You need to understand that the person you are today is not the type of person who is capable of achieving your goals. And here's what I mean by that. If your goal is to make $10,000 in a month, you're not the type of person, respectfully, that can make $10,000 per month right now. Because if you were that person, you'd be doing it right now. You would have been making 10 grand per month for the last 6 months, right? If you were the person who was capable, who had the ability to make 10 grand per month. Because honestly, probably not, right? You're probably not that guy, right? And I know that's a meme and I know that's a line, but shoot, you're probably not that guy. When I first started, I was not that guy who could make 10 grand per month, who could get 100 grand in savings cash, right? I just simply wasn't him, right? I just wasn't that guy. And I had to lie to myself to feel like I was that guy. So what I actually did was every single day when I wake up and I started writing my goals, the other thing I started doing was I started asking myself, what's the successful version of Jimmy who is making 10 grand per month? What will he do? And any single time I had any level of problems, any single level of difficulties or stress or pressure, I just asked myself, what would the successful version of me, how would I navigate this situation? Is the successful version of me just going to give up at the slightest annoyance? Or is the successful version of me just going to push through? Okay, a client asked for a refund, right? I want to give up now, right? But is the successful version of me, is he just gonna push through and just continue building the business, continue working hard, continue taking those actions? Or is the successful version of me, is that person gonna just give up because a customer asked for a refund, right? It's simple things like that, right? And it's a very, very important thing to just really internalize that the person you are today, right now, as you're watching this video, is not the type of person who can achieve the level of goals that you're looking to set out. And there's nothing wrong with that, because there's a very clear step-by-step way to actually go about doing that. Because at the end of the day, right, it's actually on a call yesterday, and I basically said to him, I honestly believe from the bottom of my heart that literally any single person could build a business, an online business, and get to 5 to 10 grand per month in the next 3 to 6 months, right? That's what I told him. And he said to me, well, Jimmy, I know what you're trying to get at here, but that's simply not true, right? Because some people, they come from different situations, different backgrounds, the country they're in, the family, the economics, politics, whatever the case is. And while those things are true, you also have to understand that at the end of the day, it's all about accountability, right? Success really does come down to you. No one is more responsible for your own success than you. So yes, maybe, the economy is shit in my country, let's just say, for example, right? That because of the poor economy, there's not a lot of money moving around, it's hard to sell my service. Yes, that is 100% true, and I can't really control that. But at the end of the day, whose fault is it that I can't make money? It's my fault, right? And the only person who can make that change, who can do something about it, is me. And really understanding and internalizing that accountability is probably half of the equation of just becoming the type of person who could achieve the level of success that you're looking for. That's really all it is, right? At the end of the day, you have to realize that it is up to you in your own hands to make those changes, right? If you're working a job right now, you've always wanted to build a business to have more freedom, to be able to spend more time with your kids, to be able to spend more time with your loved ones, your parents, or your friends. But you're working this really intensive 60-hour-a-week job. Yeah, I can't build a business because I'm working 60 hours a week. With the successful version of you, is he gonna say, or is he or she gonna say, I was able to succeed in online business despite of the fact that I was working 60 hours a week? Or is that person, that successful version of you, gonna say, I wasn't able to succeed because of my 60-hour-per-week job? Which one would they say, right? And we all know, right? If this makes you uncomfortable, it's probably because you know as well that the successful version of you is gonna say, well, I was able to make this work despite of this, right? Despite of the fact that I was scammed before for some other course, despite the fact that I failed in business because, of whatever countless reasons, they were able to make it work. Despite of. It wasn't, I couldn't do it because I was scammed, because I failed other businesses, because I don't have the time, because I don't have the skills. The successful version of you is gonna say to yourself, I was able to succeed despite of all these external things. And the reason why is because I take personal accountability, and I know that at the end of the day, it's up to me to figure out the answers despite of the reasons and external factors that led me to where I am today. So that's honestly the biggest thing you have to understand is everything starts with you, in your own heart, in your own mind, and you are the only person who can make the changes that you want to see inside of your own life. And that's a fact. That's a fact, right? And I know a lot of successful people, and the most common trait, these successful people, they sell all these different things, right? They don't even sell the same thing as me. They're not even in the same industry as me. But the one commonality between every single one of them is they have personal accountability, right? I wasn't able to do this because this sucked in my business, but that's fine because despite of these things, I was able to push through. And that's exactly what it is. Because at the end of the day, no matter what your goals are, no matter what your reasons are, no matter your external circumstances, you have to realize that you only have one shot in life, right? We're all, it doesn't matter what you believe in terms of religion or science or whatever the case is. We just have one life, as far as we all know, on this planet that is just, this giant rock that's just spinning in the middle of nowhere. We have one life. And that's honestly what really sparked my initial motivation to start in business. Because during the pandemic, I used to walk around in the parks, and sometimes in the parks, I'd see some fancy cars, right? I'd see like a person driving a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. And I remember thinking to myself, must be nice, right? Maybe one day, maybe in my next life, when I'm reborn, I'll be born into a family where my parents were rich and I'll be able to get a Lamborghini when I'm 20 years old, right? And I used to think that for the longest time. And then one day, for whatever reasons, right? I honestly don't know why. And I guess this is what people mean when they say luck, right? Because I guess we could attribute it to luck. But I got really lucky. And I ended up catching myself in that train of thought. And I said, is this thought productive to me or is it harmful to me, to my worldview? And I realized that having that mindset where, well, it must be nice, maybe in my next life, I'll get reborn into a family or circumstance where I could do all of these things and live the life I truly want. And I realized that, no, that's not the case. I had to draw the line in the sand and realize that's not the case. I only have one life as I know it, and it's up to me to build the life. I don't have the opportunity to be reborn and, have all the things that I've always wanted to do, right? I have an opportunity in front of me and I gotta make the most of it. Right? It's up to me to do it. Other people have done it before, so why can't I? And that's honestly the biggest thing, right? If you find someone online who's done something, it doesn't even have to be online. If you know someone who has achieved what you want to achieve and they've done it, it's possible, right? Literally, it's possible. There's actually a very famous story written from like a bunch of these different motivational books. And I don't remember the specific details, but essentially what that story was like probably a few decades ago inside the Olympics, like the sprinting, the 100-meter sprint. No one thought they could crack the 10-second mark, right? 10 seconds to sprint 100 meters until one guy did it. And once that one person did it, everyone else did it. Because once it becomes possible, once someone has done it before, you know in your own mind that it is possible, right? It's just maybe they use a different strategy or they know something you don't know or they're doing something different than what you're currently doing, but it 100% is possible. And if you know someone who is doing what you want to do, then understand it is possible. You just have to become the person who makes it possible. And at the same time, it's really not that hard, right? We live in 2025. We live in an era where we have access to the internet, the greatest resource in the world that's honestly, in my opinion, ever been invented. 30 years ago, my parents in that generation, they couldn't just go on Google on their phone and just search how to make money online, how to start a business, right? They couldn't do that. It was simply not even possible because it just never existed. But we live in a time where you can 100% do that. And it's up to you to go about doing that. Because really anyone could make money online. Anyone could start an online business and get to 5 to 10 grand per month in the next 3 to 6 months. And I 100% wholeheartedly 100% believe that. And I'll tell you why. Because in order to succeed in business and let's say make 5 to 10 grand per month, there's really only 3 things that you need. The first is an opportunity, right? The business opportunity. And a lot of people think this is luck or this other thing. And I'm here to say otherwise. It's not necessarily luck. And if you disagree with this video, that's completely fine as well. But in life, and of all the most successful people I've ever found, very rarely do people find success with the very first thing that they ever start. That's just the truth, right? The very first thing I've ever tried was reselling sneakers in high school. And sure, I made a few $100 here and there, but I wouldn't say it was a massive success overall. Right? I then went on. My very first online business I ever tried starting was dropshipping. And I started a marketing agency. And that led me to what I'm currently doing now, which is a lead generation agency. And I started a new business, which is a consulting business. And at every step of the way, I became more successful because I took the skills that I learned from those failed experiences and I kind of just leveled up. I became the type of person who can make 10 grand per month, who can make 50 grand per month, who can make $1 million, right? It's the journey, right? And those failures, those quote unquote failures, were all part of that journey. And at the same time, right, like I said, right, I thought about giving up hundreds of times, but I always just ask myself why. Why am I doing this, right? It's to support my family. It's to support my future kids, my future wife, things like that. And that always just motivated me and pushed me through. And the very first thing is the opportunity, right? You're probably gonna have to try a lot of different things. And that's just the way it is. Every single one of us have different skill sets, different experiences. What is the best business for me might not be the best business for you. Some people, for example, they just really, they just prefer product-based businesses. For them, product-based businesses like Amazon or dropshipping might be the best for them. For other people, it's gonna be way easier for them to just learn a skill and monetize it. For those people, sell services, right? I talk about lead generation agencies. I'm biased because it's what I found success in after failing so many times. I personally think starting a lead generation agency is the best online business for anyone looking to get started. But that's the vehicle, right? There's tons of different vehicles online, tons of different opportunities online. You just have to find one that you resonate with most, that you feel like is right for you, that aligns kind of with your skill set and current experiences, and something that just logically makes sense. So that's the opportunity. Now, the second thing that people need in order to get to 5 to 10 grand within the next 3 to 6 months is the knowledge. Because again, if you knew how to do something, you would be doing it. If you knew how to, let's just say, start a lead generation agency and make 10 grand per month, you'd be making 10 grand per month last month, right? That's the truth. And the reason you're not doing that right now is probably because you just don't really know what you're doing. And that's completely fine. No one's born onto this planet just knowing how to do all these things. No one is born onto this planet knowing how to make $1 million, right? No one is like that. And everyone has to learn it. And there's nothing stopping you from learning. There's tons of resources. Again, right? We live in probably the best time in ever on planet Earth to learn things, right? Like hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, it's very hard to learn things, right? Like if, back in the civilizations or like the kings and queens and stuff like that, regular people like me probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to even get exposed to learning all of these different things. But we are now, right? And we also have the internet, which really does level the playing field. So the second thing that most people need is knowledge. If you knew how to do it, for example, as a lead generation agency, that's just the example I'm gonna use because that's the business that I found success in. If you knew how to write the best cold emails, if you knew how to take sales calls, if you knew how to work with clients and get them great results, you'd be making well over 10 grand per month right now. But the reason you're not is because you don't know how to do any of those three things or probably all the other things that you need in order to get started. But it also leads me to my other point, right? Most people, they get shiny object syndrome. They go online and they search, oh, what is the best cold email template? Let me just copy this. But rather than copying what works, why don't you become the type of person who can write good cold emails, right? Those are two different things. Rather than just copying a good cold email and just finding information about what is a good cold email, become the type of person who can write a good cold email. And that comes down into the knowledge section. How much information and what do you actually know in terms of your skill set? Now, the third pillar is implementation and relentless action taking. Because at the end of the day, you'd be the smartest person in the world, but if you don't take the right actions, you don't do the right things and do it the right way, none of it will matter. Literally, right? I know how to start businesses. I know how to start a lead generation agency. And if I just kept all this knowledge to myself and I just never went out and actually built a lead generation agency, it doesn't matter, right? There's probably a portion of you guys who's been watching several of my YouTube videos, probably a lot of my YouTube videos for probably the last few days, last few weeks, last few months. You know how to do it, right? If you've been watching my YouTube videos, I go in very in-depth in how everything works. You know how to do it, but why haven't you yet? Seriously, ask yourself, why haven't you yet? Where are you gonna draw the line in the sand and tell yourself, enough is enough, I learned what I need to know, time to actually take action. Because at the end of the day, if you don't take action, you're just simply not gonna make money. It's as simple as that. Business is all inputs and outputs. If you don't have the inputs, you're obviously not gonna get the output. And if your output is to make 10 grand per month, you need to put in the inputs on the other side, like a machine that pumps out the output of $10,000 per month. And that's honestly the most important thing. And I want to just end off this video by really just reinforcing the point that I'm just a regular guy. Literally, right? I don't have any skills that you probably don't have right now or that you can't develop right now. I wasn't born into a rich family. I wasn't born with a massive, massive network of just friends that I could hit up to get jobs and stuff like that. I was just a regular guy, right? I was literally working at McDonald's, right? So I made a video around a year ago talking about my story, and I talked about it in chronological order about how everything started for me. And obviously, I started at the fact that I was working at McDonald's, I was in debt and stuff like that. And there was actually someone in the comments who said, you're probably born into a rich family, right? And I'm not gonna argue with him, but would I be working at McDonald's and be in debt if I was born to a rich family? And I digress from that point. But I'm just a regular guy, right? I started with nothing, right? No skills, no experiences. When I started in business, I looked like a kid. I had acne all over my face. I was wearing braces. I just looked like a kid. And I was still able to make it work. And I made it work because I told myself that I'll make it work. And you have to tell yourself that you have to make it work. So what you have to do right now, if you're watching this video, it's probably because you are interested in personal development. You have big goals for yourself. You have a vision of your life that you want to achieve that you're currently not living right now. And that's completely fine because that's where it all starts for every single successful person that I've ever met. There was something going on in their life and they're like, enough is enough, time to start. Your very first step is to map out your goals. Be ultra specific. How much you want to make, in what timeline, why, right? Most importantly, why do you want to make that level of money? That's the first thing you have to do. The second thing you have to do is build out your avatar of the successful version of you. What would they be doing, right? Would they be sleeping in the successful version of you? Would they be sleeping in every single day, every single weekend? Would they be going out partying every single week? Probably not, like realistically speaking. Sure, it's important to balance out your lifestyle, but when the successful version of you, they work when they need to work, right? They get shit done. And that's the most important part. So you gotta map out what that avatar looks like, the successful version of you. And the third thing you have to do is pick up business opportunity. There's tons of stuff. If you don't know where to start, just go on my YouTube channel and watch some of my other videos and see if what I talk about, which is a lead generation agency, is something that is potentially interesting to you. And ask yourself why, right? Everything starts with why. Why this business model over anything else? Why am I listening to this guy over everyone else? Is this guy giving more value? Is what he's saying making more sense? Why is that? Everything starts with a why. And that's what you want to do. And once you figure out the business opportunity, your very next step is to learn the knowledge. So whether that's going through my YouTube videos or using the link and booking a time and chatting with me to see if I can help you start a lead generation agency, shameless plug. But that aside, knowledge exists everywhere and you just have to learn it, right? Whether it takes you half a year, 3 months, it doesn't really matter. Some methods are faster than others. So for example, if you work with a mentor, someone like myself, you're obviously gonna learn way quicker, right? But that's not to say you can't learn by yourself. So that's the second thing you need to do, learn the knowledge. And finally, the third thing, arguably the most important part, is taking action and working towards your goals. Taking action every single day and becoming the type of person who can make 5 to 10 grand per month or whatever it is that your goal is. So that's what I wanted to share in today's video. If you found this valuable, drop me a like, drop me a subscribe. The first link in the description below is a link to set up a time to chat with me. If you are seriously interested in starting a lead generation agency and you want my help to get to 5 to 10 grand per month, then that's the first link. If you want to learn for free, which is completely fine, the second link in the description is a link to a full step-by-step lead generation agency course. Or if you're hearing about this term for the first time, what's a lead generation agency? I strongly advise you to just watch that video, see if this is right for you, and go from there. But that's what I wanted to share in this video. If you like this video, drop me a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.